law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend any meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with this law, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of River Edge have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having a date, time, and place posted in the Borough Hall, and notices were sent to the Record and the Ridgewood News. The mission of this governing body is to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy to safeguard our infrastructure, providing honest, courteous, and professional services, and establish a sense of trust and accomplishments with our residents. Through research and prudent planning, we seek to minimize risk by improving municipal services. We are sensitive to the needs of our taxpayers while realizing that this governing body cannot be all things to all people within the revenue constraints imposed by state mandates, present economic conditions, and prevailing attitudes about taxation. There are 2 exits in the room, one up here at the front and one in the back. We are on the record, so everything is being recorded. On the record also means that we have established video, so if you would like to address the council during the public portion of the meeting, and if you come to the microphone, then you'll not only be recorded, but your image will be restored for posterity, and you can watch it later on YouTube. All right. Can I have a roll call?
Councilman Murphy. Councilman Ford.
Here.
Councilman Forza. Councilman McMillan.
Here.
Councilman Bartoloni.
Here.
Councilman Papaleo.
Here.
And Mayor Mastroianni.
Here. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Mayor and Council work session and regular meeting of May 7th, 2012?
So moved. I was here. Was I here? Can you look out? Yeah, I was here.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any,
I'm sorry, sustain.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any
I
abstain?
conditionally abstain. I don't think I was here. I can't remember
All right,
exactly.
tonight we have no proclamations or awards.
Wow.
We have an appointment to approve the salary change of Mary Ann Giuliano of our Youth Services Librarian for an additional $2,000 due to a waiver of health benefits as per Section 3, Subject 4 of the Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual, effective January 1, 2012. Do I have a motion to approve that personnel change?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay. That probably saved us about $18,000 right there. We have correspondence that we have received. We have letters and notices that are on file with Denise Don Diego, the Borough Clerk, and can be reviewed by any member of the public. We have, this evening, we have liaison reports. Councilwoman Murphy is not present. She is the liaison to the Shade Tree Commission, the Library, the Senior Citizens Co-Liaison, the Technology Committee, July 4th Committee, and the New Milford River Edge Shared Services Committee. So she won't be giving any reports tonight. Councilman Courts, DPW, Beautification, Traffic and Safety, New Milford River Edge Shared Services, and Oradell River Edge Shared Services.
Yeah, I have a couple, Mayor. Attended my first beautification committee meeting 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, and I have to say they work hard. They had a couple of plantings. Unfortunately, they're during the day, and I cannot help them out with that, but at those certain times, I was able to drive by and cheer them on and see that they were planting, and there were 3 of them out there working. I can appreciate that. They were out there even yesterday and today. But even on Sunday they were out there. But they got a good, hard-working group over there, so I do appreciate them doing that for the town. And then the second one would be the shared services. I know that we attended that on, I think it was last Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not sure the date on it. But Tuesday it was. And basically the notes that we took from it were we were going to look at areas in sharing. Sorry, let me get some of these notes out here. You know, just looking at certain areas, the court, code enforcement's, dispatch, even the billing department. I know that the Oradell wanted Lori, who is their borough administrator, to work closer with us. I don't know, did she contact you all this week, Ellen?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
I'll reach out to her.
Okay, can you do that for me? Because there's some stuff that she wants to talk about, and if we can pull that together and just get some ideas going forward. But, you know, I know we've been trying to work at Ordell for years, and we just want to start pulling stuff together, and whether it be the courts, you know, dispatch, building departments are some key areas. The courts, I had a couple questions on. I know the mayor, you did too, as far as us taking on another load from the town. That I don't know if we want to be handling that yet. I think that we can look into other opportunities, but Ordell's willing to work on a lot of other areas. And the last one would be DPW. John and I have been really meeting up once a week, just trying to figure out some ideas and shortcuts and some money-saving ideas, and I'm going to try to have a list of that within the next couple weeks of where we're going. But what we will be planning is a meeting between the DPW. Al, you and I are going to set up that and have a meeting with DPW and the River Edge Rec to see if we can do something regarding cost, overlapping positions and jobs, so that we can try to streamline this more, so it, you know, so we can cut costs and actually keep the labor under control. But that's it.
All right, thank you, Councilman Courts. Councilman Porco is not present tonight, so he won't be giving any reports. Next is Councilman Mignon, liaison to the Police Department, Environmental Protection, and the Green Team. Ed?
Okay, start with the Environmental Protection Commission. We had the river cleanup yesterday. Want to thank Greg Ogden, Fred Newman, Peg White. They spearhead it every year from the commission. Do a great job getting people motivated. Obviously, it's done through the cooperation of the Riverkeeper, but it was a good turnout. Thank Councilman Bartoloni for venturing out into the wild Hackensack River with me. We must have removed about 50 pounds of caution tape wrapped around branches and all kinds of things. And so I think it was a good event, and I don't know what the final number is, but the dumpster was half full when I left, so I'm sure they collected quite a bit of debris. Green Team, I mentioned earlier, we're meeting on Wednesday evening, 8 o'clock here. We're going to be discussing whether we're going to pursue recertification under the Sustainable Jersey program. Our original certification is expiring at the end of the year, but they've changed the merits of the program, and it's much more difficult to get recertified now than it is to get certified, or was to get certified then. And there was some concern by members of the committee that the promised benefits to the certified towns have never come through. So they're trying to weigh whether it's something they want to put a lot more time into, because it will take a great number of man-hours to get together the required information to get recertified. But we're pursuing that. Also, Planning Board, just want to make mention that 2 applications were approved last week. One was the 7-Eleven. Second was a modified site plan for Huffman Coos. And both of those projects, I think, are very important to the revitalization of the town. You know, we've talked about it before. I think downtown Huffman Coos project is vital to, as vital, if not more vital, I think, than the New Jersey Transit project and getting things moving down there in a timely fashion. And 7-Eleven, we've been trying to say we have to also address the Kinder-Kmack corridor. It's not just looking at the downtown. So both those projects, I think, are in the right direction. And I think, at least on the Huffman Coos side, we were encouraged by their environmental experts' report that the contamination has been, the soil contamination has been remediated. They're going to be going into a monitoring phase on the groundwater contamination. Neither issue should preclude any construction starting. So, and it looks like they're being aggressive in trying to get some leasing, some tenants. So we are hopeful that that's going to be started soon. And I don't have anything on the police department, but I do see Chief Curdy around, so if he had anything to add, he can add.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Councilman Papaleo, Fire and Fire Prevention, Construction Code, Property Maintenance, SCORE, and River Edge Alliance Against Alcohol and Drugs.
Actually, I don't think on SCORE, at least if no one's informed me of such.
You are not.
No, you're not school. Denise, could you remove, for next month, remove Councilman Papaleo from SCORE and add planning board to Ed's list?
So the fire department has had 24 calls in April, 106 calls.
Wait a minute. Did I?
I just assumed you wanted to leave the best for
No, I
last.
skipped. Sorry, I skipped
I was out,
Councilman Bartoloni.
so I didn't know if...
Sorry, we're going to come back to you. Councilman Bartoloni.
Thank you, Mayor.
Rec, Riverdale Schools, River Edge Schools, and the 4th of July Committee.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Is there anything else that you need to add to your list?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm good.
All right.
I think I'm good. We did meet for the River Edge Recreation Commission met last Wednesday. The issue, Mayor, you were there for a little while, was whether, and this really dominated the entire meeting, was whether or not to allow the Cultural Center as part of its car show to display 6 new cars inside the park along the pathways. Ultimately, the Recreation Commission voted 4-3 to allow the 6 cars to be parked on the pathways. However, the Cultural Center will have to post a bond of $2,000 before they'll be allowed to do that in case there's any damage caused to the grass or the sidewalk or they fail to clean up any debris around the area and there's costs incurred for that. So I don't know whether or not the Cultural Center will be posting that $2,000 bond, but that was the requirement that the commission imposed on them. The other issue was where the food vendor would be allowed to set up during the car show. In the past, they've borrowed power from the American Legion building. However, since there's no power there anymore, they were unable to do that, and the issue was whether or not they would be allowed to run electrical extension cords from the pavilion in Memorial Park into the middle of the park or have to stay within the pavilion, and it was ultimately determined that they will stay in the pavilion, that the running of electrical wires through the park was not favorable. So that was the main issue that was discussed there.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Peter Dunce came up to me, and there was another idea. Ambulance Corps, is it possible to use their power, or is that...
My understanding in speaking with him was that, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, I haven't spoken to anybody in the Ambulance Corps, but their electrical system is inadequate, so that they can't use it.
Okay.
But what the Cultural Center did propose was that if they raise money past a certain threshold, that they wanted to donate that money to the Ambulance Corps to upgrade their electrical system. So they're still, from what I understand, and again, I don't know if it's true, is that they're still using fuses, and they haven't moved up to circuit breakers over there.
Yeah, he mentioned to me the other day that he had an electrician that would donate or help them pay for the upgrade of their box if they could use that. So I don't know if you want to follow up with that.
Yeah, well, the Ambulance Corps building is the Ambulance Corps building. But, I mean, if they raised a certain amount of money, then I'm sure they'll make good on that. And that was really the only issue with recreation, although, as I did say, they went through the resolution for the Special Events Committee. Generally, they thought it was favorable. They had some concerns with Bobby's time, and some thought that this was a way to try and reduce her hours, that we'd be taking some responsibility away from her and eventually try and reduce her pay. And I tried to assure them that that was not the genesis or the thought behind this committee. But, if we can take some of the responsibility off of Bobby, all the better, because she seemed to just kind of inherit these things, and I don't think she was ever, really meant to inherit some of this stuff, but she just kind of took it upon herself. So that was what happened with the Recreation Commission. In terms of the 4th of July Committee, we also met last week, and plans are coming along, although sponsorship dollars to this point have been somewhat light.
You can be a family sponsor for $25. To this point, we've only had 9 families sign up, so if anyone would like to be a family sponsor, please do so. We also have silver patrons, and again, these are mostly businesses and organizations in town, and that's a $100 donation, and we have 17 of those. And to this point, we only have 1 gold patron, and typically we have more than that, and that only one is Quartz Plumbing and Heating. So,
Didn't even know that.
So what we will be doing, Kathleen and I, is contacting prior sponsors in the borough and just reminding them that the deadline is coming due if they want their name printed in the flyer for the advertising to, try and boost that. But otherwise, everything's coming along. The concert, again, is on July 3rd at 7:30 in Memorial Park. Food and the band are all booked. The parade is July 4th at 11 a.m. And again, if any of the council want to get a dunk tank together, the 4th of July committee is all in favor of that. Kathleen and I both said we would be happy to have to sit there as long as maybe we can get 1 or 2 other members of the council who are willing to donate a half hour or so to get dunked. And we'd keep it near the beer garden, which I think would go a long way. And that's about all I have to report this week.
All right, the only correction I have to make, Al, is that there is power at the American Legion. There's always been power at the American Legion. The pumps are running at the American Legion. That's the only correction I have to make, just so the record's clear.
Council said there wasn't.
What?
He told me the day he said it wasn't.
No,
Or
You're
it's
right.
intermittent, or
Okay.
it's not sufficient.
no, the breakers are off, are in the off position, except for the breaker that goes to
Gotcha.
the pumps.
Okay.
The pumps are working, but we don't need lights in the rest of the building. Okay. Councilman Papaleo. There we go.
I went and met with the chief, and we speak regularly on the phone. For the month of April, there were 24 calls, 106 calls to date. There have been 4 mutual aid, one of which was a working fire in New Milford. There have been 5 smoke or CO alarms. Fire alarms, there were 5. Gas leaks, there were 3. There were 2 bush fires, 1 power line issue, and 4 structural. The drills for the month of April was, there was a department drill in the Fair Lawn Safety Complex. There were 2 manned search, roof ops, and this was a free training part of our coalition. Company 1 had a large diameter hose supply and a tack drill, and Company 2 had a hose line, stretches, attack, and supply. I did go to the Company 2 drill. I'm going to try to go to 1 company a month, and it was very informative. It's wonderful what our volunteers are doing, not just when they need to show up, but in preparation and in training. There's nothing to report from the Fire Prevention Office, the Construction Code Office, or the Property Maintenance. The River Edge Alliance Against Alcohol and Drugs chair has met with Alan and continues to work on where we are with the budget, has received requests from the library and other sources for funding that we have not yet done, and that's being reviewed. And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. For my report this month, I'll let everybody know that I met this morning with Kathleen Donovan, the county executive, and Ed, what's his name, Truinsky. And we discussed different ideas regarding shared services and my pet project, which is the dog park, so that's why I used the word pet project. And I hand-delivered to the county executive a petition signed by over 200 local residents, the resolutions from This council, the resolution from Oradell, the resolution from Paramus, all in favor of establishing a dog park there. I showed the county executive a map of where I thought a possible location would be that wouldn't affect any residential homeowners in the vicinity, in a section of the park that is relatively secluded. So she will get back to me in a week or so to let me know if the county is going to go forward with building a dog park there. On other issues, we spoke of county equipment that's available. I wish John Lynch were still here, but he's not. The county has a large piece of equipment that they paid several $100,000 for, called the pothole filler, and it's an all-in-one piece of equipment that the apparatus just drives over the hole, it deposits the asphalt, it rolls it out, and then it moves to the next hole. All it requires is a driver. There's no manpower or labor charges. The county is willing to loan that equipment out to municipalities. We would have to pay for the material only. We also spoke to them about a GPS navigation system that we could piggyback on the county's contract to put in vehicles, municipal vehicles, to know where the vehicles are, to help with dispatching, to monitor usage and maintenance, and there are also options so that you could see the speed of the vehicles, how long it's been idling, how long it, whether or not it has brakes suddenly, that we should consider. I spoke to the county executive about our senior bus and the shape that it's in, and she'll get back to me about what is the county's program for bus service, because I know there was questions as to whether it's duplicative of what something the county could provide, whether or not we even need a bus service. So she's going to provide me with further information on the county's bus schedule. She did talk to me about this brine system that they have for the winter time, where they brine streets. But she indicated that the best piece of equipment to get is a piece of equipment that you spray sidewalks with the brine. It's a tank, and it has a long hose, and you walk and you hand operate it and spray sidewalks and steps. And she indicated that it costs pennies to operate, and it really cuts down on liability cases involving slip and falls on ice, to brine steps like the schools and our municipal building and the public library and things like that. She mentioned to me that the majority of towns in Bergen County that have volunteer ambulance services are now hiring a third-party billing company to bill for volunteer ambulance services, and it is generating a substantial amount of cash flow that the volunteer ambulance service can use and can share with the municipality. She indicated that the ambulance service or the town can set policies so that if you don't have insurance, it's still free, you don't pay anything, you don't even get billed. But if you have insurance, the bill gets generated by the third-party billing company, goes right to the insurance company, and the insurance company will pay for the service, and there's no balance billing to the resident. There's no copay or deductible or anything like that. So I think it's something that should be explored. I think we should probably schedule a meeting with REVAS to see if they're interested in a billing service for the volunteer ambulance service, only for those people that have insurance. And she also mentioned the use of the MAWA 911 dispatch center and that it is generating immediate savings to municipalities. So I would like the chief to look at that and to see if that's a way for us to save money. As Paul Courts mentioned, last Tuesday, we also met, Al, Paul, and I met with the mayor and borough administrator in Oradell, and Councilman Hines, is it? Murphy. Councilman Murphy. And we had a very good discussion about the opportunity to share services. I think one of the easiest ones to do would be to, and I've already spoken to John Lynch about that, and maybe we can get some numbers from Alan, is to accept Oradell's leaves in the fall and to grind them and then to sell the leaf compost as we do now, because Oradell spends a significant amount of money carting the leaves away that they're willing to pay us if we give them a discounted rate. And that seems like John Lynch is on board. I know the council would be on board. He indicates that we have the capacity, that it would only require a few hundred more gallons of diesel fuel, that we would make up by the funds that are generated from Oradell. So maybe we can get going on that and see if we can get that squared away, and then try to move on to another shared service. So that's what I have in my mayor's reports. We have an ordinance on for first reading, which is an ordinance amending Chapter 384, Trees of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of River Edge. Sam provided a memo on the revised ordinance. Are there any comments on it?
I had a question.
Okay.
I had thought at one point we had said we were going to limit the ordinance just to street trees and not private trees. This covers private
I
trees.
think we did discuss that, and I think the consensus, at least in discussing with the Shade Tree Commission and others, that we felt that it would be important to cover private trees also, especially in the process of a development, whether in terms of issuance of building permits and things of that sort. Exempted, I think we have, and I'd have to just check the order.
Yeah, there's an exemption for trees
for
trees on...
emergency management and stuff like that.
There's an exemption for trees on private property that are, in...
Rule for maintenance.
No, that
Yes.
are dangerous or need to be
Yes,
taken
but
down.
they say for maintenance,
Yeah.
but if you're going to do a little addition, you could be asking people to spend money for replacement trees and posting not tens, but thousands of dollars potentially in bonds. I think that's a big onus on a homeowner for a
I don't
small
think that was
project.
the intent.
I know it's not the intent, but I can see it happening under this.
I know...
I have Shade Tree.
Yeah, we have Shade Tree here, and
Why don't you come up?
This is a collaborative effort. We've worked a long time on this ordinance. I know there was a question about what constitutes a right-of-way, that maybe we can...
Right-of-way issue,
Iron
there's no
out.
issue with our trees, it's just the private property tree that is actually...
I don't...
I wanted to mention, the ordinance is really named...
Just for the record, can you give us your name?
Sure, Jennifer Dougherty.
Good. All right, thank you. Go ahead, Jennifer.
It's for construction. We're talking about the big constructions that are coming in and doing the big mansions. It's not really for the small construction. Somebody putting,
I appreciate, but the way the ordinance is drafted doesn't give those as exemptions, so that's why I'm just concerned about small projects. I agree with you with the bigger projects.
I know.
and
I think we're told legally that we can't exempt them, but how we can regulate it is in the permit. When those come through, we just kind of brush it off and say that's a small project.
I think you got to allow a certain amount of discretion with the Shade Tree Commission. They seem to be very much in tune with the concerns of our taxpayers. Basically, we're looking at a way of finding out where the trees are going to be removed. And we've tied that into the building permit process so that there is an ability to address and evaluate. And I think you got to put a little bit of confidence in the Shade Tree Commission evaluating that. Obviously, we don't want to put people to a great deal of trouble. I know
Right.
Johnny Porter had mentioned that when this came up initially. And I think what we've done is fashion it in a way that I think allows us to look at that situation to determine whether there should be a replacement tree of any tree that's taken down. Obviously, it's not the burden of the taxpayer.
But also, it's just another level of bureaucracy, and might, if they're starting to have to engage a surveyor to survey trees, if they have to get a
No, we
surveyor
don't
on
have it.
more
We eliminated
tree
that.
replacement plan and all the
No,
other things.
not at all.
They make it complicated for
We've
a small
eliminated any certified
application.
surveys. We just said that you give us a sketch it could be on an existing survey, and you can draw the tree and where it's located. I think having the ability to monitor these conditions is as important as the ultimate decision. Otherwise, things are taken down, no one knows, and it just goes by the board.
I agree, Sam. The reason why it was included in the ordinance and the request of the Shade Tree Commission is, number one, so that they can keep an inventory of how many shade trees are being lost every year to even these larger developments or small developments, so that we have an idea as to how much of the canopy we're losing and what can be replaced. Right now, the Shade Tree has a very economical program where they charge developers $400 to put a shade tree, not thousands of dollars. So,
But there's a $5,000 bond required.
No,
But I'm
it's
up to
no more than
no more, yes.
$5,000?
But there's a lot of ambiguity, and again, I'm not talking about street trees. I have no problem, really, I'm just talking about the trees on private property. And I would hazard a guess that more trees will be removed under the exemption for maintenance than they would for development. So to try to get inventory based on the construction, I don't know if that's going to really get you the numbers.
The other thing is, too, I think you have an appeal process, too, that we built in.
Yeah, right.
So if someone doesn't agree with the Shade Tree Commission, they can come before the mayor and council. It's a whole new hearing, and we can address it here. I would like to encourage the council to adopt this ordinance, only because we've lived with it for so long. We've met numerous times, and I really believe it's a pretty good ordinance, given all the factors. We try to be fair to the private property owner, as well as governing the street trees. I've added two provisions in this because Bob Burns felt that there should be more in the area of protection of trees, and we've added two sections, which is section 10 and 11, in this particular ordinance that covers protection of trees when they're being removed and cut down. I think it's a well-taken thought also. Also, trees that are on buffers, neighbors, we have a notice requirement because the tree could be on a boundary line, and that could present issues as to the jurisdiction of the tree and ownership of the tree, and there's a provision that allows that the notice be given to the neighbor where a tree is cut down.
Sam, there was a question about what constitutes a right-of-way, and I know that originally the definition said 25 feet from the center line of the roadway.
Right. I took it out.
Is that taken out?
I took it out.
What definition is
It's in there. It's in the last memo I emailed to everybody. What we did is a right-of-way is typically, can be a area, I felt it should be an area that's under the jurisdiction of the borough. Typically, a right-of-way can consist of an easement. It wouldn't be an encumbrance, okay, and I eliminated that reference. An encumbrance is essentially a lien or impediment upon property. But a right-of-way can be a passageway essentially under the jurisdiction of the borough. It may not even be owned by the borough, but if they have an easement or a gore strip that runs across a piece of land, then the borough should have the right to control tree removal in those areas. So I just modified it and modified it somewhat. Took out the language of delineating by way of feet, because I think it shouldn't be delineated by way of feet, but more right-of-way is a word of art. I think it should be by...
But the tax maps are based on right-of-way widths. So if you go to your tax map, it's going to have your right-of-way width. And then the presumption then is that the paved way is in the center of the right-of-way, which isn't necessarily the case. I think in most cases you're not going to have a problem, but if you have trees which are not on the curb line, you can get some...
Well, you wouldn't know. Well, I would say that anything, if it's not on private property, for example, it's on a sidewalk, okay? That
And it's definitely within the right of way.
It's
But if
definitely within the
If it's
right
behind
of
the
way.
sidewalk on the edge, then you're going to have some debate
Well,
whether it's in the right of way or not.
If it extends onto private property, you may have a problem. I mean, you'll have to evaluate that once you see the actual factual pattern. But I think basically, I think this kind of is more expansive in terms of rather than limited to
Okay.
distance.
All right. Any further comments from council? Paul?
Yeah, this is kind of an issue that happened on Greenway. One of our neighbors, her tree, she had to take down. You remember that one?
Yes, she came to our meeting on Thursday. Actually, it was a borough tree that she had assumed. We had her come to our meeting, we got her information, we gathered information. In the end, we decided as a group it was not a malicious act. She truly thought it was her tree. And so we negotiated. And we do have trees that are on the border, town trees, and we have to make a decision based
I
on
mean,
all
this
the
thing was
information.
literally,
It was not in the middle, it was more of a town tree. It was maybe three-quarters town and a quarter on her property.
but the way, from where I can see, the way it just went in
Well, because
anyway.
We
the
can measure it,
sidewalk-
though.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
sidewalk was moved.
But we measure
Went
from the
around.
tax
Yeah.
map, but that's an issue, we're gonna have those issues. There aren't many trees like that left, but we'll have a few issues like that, and we'll work it out with the resident. You know, we want them to be able to do their construction, but we also want to be able to save town trees, so we can negotiate.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about that. I agree with Ed too. It just seems like everything we do today, there's somebody always reaching over and saying, your private property, we want to look after your private property. I know this is something that we talked about, and it may not be, I'm reading the exemptions on 385-9, the D, which says tree removed private property is exempt from this. I understand that, and, I just hope that the next group that comes in as far as shade tree doesn't get ambitious about it, compared to this one.
We're gonna be here till we're 90 years
Well, I
old.
wish I could say that.
Again, I really want to emphasize, and I really want to emphasize to all of you, this is for major construction.
Yeah.
You see what's going on throughout our town. When we started this ordinance, we showed you pictures, and a lot of it was brand-new construction, people coming into this community and taking the houses down. The street trees in front of it were not surviving. So we're looking out for the residents. We're not here to hinder the residents. So it's not for the small, person, for the small addition. We're looking at the larger picture. We're looking at the numbers of for sale signs on the smaller homes in the community.
And I'm not arguing with the street tree part. I agree with you 100%. I don't know why it has to be tied into the private
Because
trees.
you asked us to put it back in,
Well,
quite
I
honestly.
personally did,
No,
but I mean,
the
that's...
council-
Okay, if that's the consensus of
I
the council,
have
that's
to
the consensus of the
say-
council. My personal position was I didn't
I
want to
have to
include
say,
the
every
private
time we
trees.
come, you tell us, take it out, put it in, take it out. And every time we come, you flip-flop it either way. We've got to make a decision as a town, and most towns are doing this. I think most of you know who work in other towns, they're doing this or they've done it already. And we're volunteers, we're not going to be out there, this isn't our job, so we're really going to concentrate on the major construction.
Do you guys from Shade Tree have any changes to this
No,
ordinance?
we're good with this.
You're good with
We're good
this?
with this revision that came out this afternoon.
Okay, all right.
Again, my concern is that, and why I believe you would exercise your powers judiciously. Legislation is not just written for today, but it has to be written for the future as well. And I don't know who's going to come down the line and say, you want to take this tree down? $5,000 bond. I don't care what size and scope of project you're dealing with. We're not going to let you, or, we're not going to approve this permit, and if we do, we're going to have a $5,000 bond. That is the possibility.
What we would say to that is, it says in here that if they disagree, they come to mayor and council. If you start seeing that, then you change the ordinance.
And there's an appeal
Simple as
process.
that.
I'm assuming you're going to be there a lot longer than most of us are going to be here. So that's the assumption I'm operating under.
But it can always be changed.
It certainly can.
I think at this point, 5 years later, we need to give it a chance.
But sometimes things don't get changed for the better, they get changed for the worse.
Yeah, but I think, Al, what your argument is, and I'm not saying it's not valid, but that would be true virtually for any of our code enforcers. I mean, you could come down on, I could inspect the sidewalk while you're in the process of applying for a CCO in the sale of your home, and I'll look at that sidewalk and I'll tell you, replace 12 of the slabs, where someone else may be more lenient in terms of whether the slab should be replaced. I mean, I think you have to place some confidence in the organization that's going to monitor this. If it looks like they're out of control, then I think you have to address it as part of the legislative arm of the borough. So then either you're going to revise the ordinance, or we're going to end up with a lot of appeals coming in because people are going to object to the way you're treating them.
Alan?
Mayor, if there's no motion to introduce this ordinance tonight, we should go back into work session and have this discussion and deliberation over the ordinance until the council is ready to introduce it. But
All right, well,
I know we have
I'll-
other topics on for
I'll
tonight.
call for the motion to introduce it on first reading. If I get a motion, then I'll need a second. Does anyone want
So
to
moved.
introduce this? All right, does anybody want to second it? I don't see anybody seconding it. All right, there's no second of the motion. The ordinance fails on first reading.
You know what, I'm perplexed, and I'm sorry, because we've been working so hard on this, and the council wanted us to put back in private property. I mean, we've done this 3 or 4 times, going back and
Jen,
forth.
hold on a second.
So I can...
I don't remember putting it in private
We
property.
can go
I remember
back.
sitting over there, I remember you guys coming up here, I don't remember private property.
The
going-
original version that Sam did had private property in it.
Right,
Then we
The
took it.
original version.
And it was supposed to be removed. it
and
was
we did,
removed.
and then we came back.
Then the code inspector wanted it, then it's back and
Yeah.
forth. I don't think anyone...
I don't think a majority of this council ever wanted that
They
back in.
They did, because, you know, we were
We
here,
asked to put it back.
and we were asked to put it back in. You know what, I mean, we could go back and look, well, and unfortunately, we don't have, written minutes on work sessions
Right.
when a lot of these conversations took place, but I would not waste my time sitting here as a volunteer, going back and forth on this ordinance. So it is a bit upsetting for us.
I can honestly say, in my personal practice with tree ordinances, I don't know of any town that doesn't regulate private trees. I don't. I mean, I've viewed ordinances from Tenafly, from other municipalities, Fort Lee. You take down a tree, you have a choice either to replant it or put up $250 to replace it.
Exactly.
It's not a big deal. I
Again,
think
but
it's in the
they
interest
have
of the town.
a half-a-page application, and it doesn't apply to all these other conditions. If you want to protect the street trees, let's have an ordinance to protect the street trees.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt it right now, striking that one paragraph and protecting the street trees. I'll modify the ordinance and make that right now.
If you want to tighten up the language with the other one, we can look at
Yeah,
that.
I think if you look at if I may just speak on the defense of the Shade Tree Commission, the ordinance with reference to private trees really governs the issuance of permits. It's not just going on someone's property and telling someone cuts down a tree that they're going to pay, they have to post a $5,000 bond. It's only where that person applies for a building permit, then there is an assessment as to the tree to be removed in conjunction with that permit. It's not like they're monitoring everybody's home and telling them they can't cut down a tree that's got a 4-inch caliper. All they're saying is that whenever a permit is pulled, you must submit an application and there's a review process.
So then,
That's all they're asking for.
But-
I mean, I don't see I think really,
but what
I've seen
precludes
this
you then,
before firsthand.
and then maybe the weakness...
We're back to debating this.
Yeah, we're back to debating it.
But just,
Should be done at a work
but the problem there is then, what precludes me, if I know I'm going to do a project, to take a tree down because I have not pulled a construction permit?
that's right.
And then I come back later and I get a construction permit, now my tree's gone. Doesn't that defeat the intent of your
I
ordinance?
think it does. I think it really does. We thought of this. This came up in our discussions, and we said this is a possible way where people could circumvent doing it, but we would have to evaluate that in terms of people start cutting down trees on their property.
But then the ordinance fails to accomplish
Well,
its...
doesn't that help
its
you?
goal.
That helps us because we're saying that we don't want to regulate people taking their trees down. All we're saying is that when you pull a permit and there's a tree involved in the application for that permit or development, then it comes under the jurisdiction of the Shade Tree Commission, only where there's a permit pull. So I really think it accomplishes what you're trying to establish and what the Shade Tree is established. I don't think it's foolproof because people could obviously do exactly. I could be a major developer, let's say Mal Atkins. I could now decimate all the trees before I pull my permit, and then I essentially avoided any overview or oversight by the Shade Tree Commission. I think what they've done by building in the permit process in conjunction with private trees, I think it protects the private property owner. So if they want to exercise their own discretion in taking trees down and not putting an addition on or doing a development, then they can accomplish that without having any oversight by the Shade Tree Commission. All they're saying is that we thought this was a way to allow people to exercise what they feel is their right over the trees on their property, with the carve-out being that where a permit is required, because it is a development or construction permit, then you have to go through that process and submit it in conjunction with the permit application. And so that's exactly what we have in this ordinance. So I think it accomplishes both ends.
Let me ask this, is it legal to have a waiver possibility for certain applications?
I think you have to trust the discretion.
But I mean, physically on a form, they can have a waiver, give a procedure for a waiver.
And this is a discussion for a work session. We just have to continue with the
I'm trying to find a
meeting.
way, if we can move it forward, Mayor, to move forward.
But I think you have it in there. If you want to read it a little bit, I mean, I think you've accomplished it, because the very same point that Al raised was the one that we had discussed specifically, that we knew we have some vulnerability there, but in an effort not to appear that we're exercising, we're usurping the rights of property owners in terms of their tree management. That's why we tied it into a permit process. So it wouldn't affect it except in the context of a permit.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we introduce it on first reading, and then we can amend it before it gets adopted?
Can do that.
That's fine, let's do that.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right? Is there a second to Tom's
Second.
motion? All right? Let's have a roll call. We have plenty of discussion.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Mignola.
Yes.
Councilman Bartoloni.
Yes.
Councilman Papaleo.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I hope I'm not around for the second reading.
All right, no ordinance on for a second reading. Resolutions by consent. Does any council member want to pull out for a separate vote any resolution from 12-181 up to and including 12-190, looks like 12-196 for the payment of bills? No. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the resolutions by consent?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, thank you. I'd like to open the hearing to the public. Does any member would like to speak to the mayor and council about any issue? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay, the meeting is open to the public. If you'd like to address the mayor and council, you can stand up, give us your name and address, and make your statement. Seeing none. Do I have a motion to close the meeting to the public?
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? I only heard one aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Payment of the bills, Mayor?
He was there.
We did pay the bills. I just didn't pull out for a separate reason. I had a motion to adjourn.
Aye, second.
Seconded? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, where there is we adopted a motion earlier to go into closed session to discuss litigation. So that's what we're going to do now. I want to thank all the members